Production started in August 1942. August 1942 at a crawl. Just 25 Tigers per month rolled off the assembly line. Compare that to the thousands of Shermans and T-34s the Allies were pumping out. But Germany did not care about quantity. They wanted quality. They wanted terror on tracks. The Tiger's first combat deployment is one of the most embarrassing military debuts in history. September 1942 near Leningrad. 4 brand new Tigers were sent to crush the Red Army. The plan was simple. Roll in, destroy everything, roll out. What could go wrong? Everything. Absolutely everything. The 4 Tigers were deployed single file over swampy terrain. Within the first day of combat, all 4 were knocked out, not from enemy fire piercing their armour. Nope, they got stuck in the mud and swamp. 3 were eventually recovered, but imagine the humiliation. Your supposedly unstoppable superweapon gets defeated by dirt on day 1. But the Germans learned fast. They developed new tactics. They trained specialised crews. They created independent heavy tank battalions that could be rushed to critical sectors. The Tiger became a fire brigade, sent wherever the front was collapsing. And once commanders figured out how to use it properly, the Tiger transformed into exactly what Germany had envisioned. By the end of 1942, Tiger formations were deployed to Russia, Africa, and Italy. Training centres sprang up in Germany and France. Eventually, Tigers would serve in 10 regular German Army heavy tank battalions, 3 SS heavy tank battalions, and with the elite Grossdeutschland division. The beast had found its stride. The Tiger's greatest strength was not just its gun or armour. It was the psychological warfare it unleashed. Allied soldiers developed what came to be known as Tigerphobia. Just the sight of a Tiger would cause enemy tanks to withdraw. British General Montgomery was so concerned about the impact on morale that he banned all reports mentioning the Tiger's battlefield successes. If you cannot beat it, do not talk about it. On February 1st, 1943, the British captured an intact Tiger in Tunisia. They immediately performed exhaustive tests. The results confirmed their worst fears. The Tiger was indeed an exceptional gun platform, extremely well protected from everything except their largest anti-tank guns. The 88mm gun could obliterate their tanks before they even got in range to fight back. This was not propaganda. This was mathematical certainty. Here is a fun fact most people do not know. Despite weighing a massive 54 tons, the Tiger actually had better ground pressure than many lighter tanks. How? Incredibly wide tracks that distributed the weight. In fact, the Tiger had lower ground pressure than the American Sherman. It also had a tighter turning radius. At 344 metres, it could spin circles around a Sherman, which needed 18.6 metres to turn. This beast was surprisingly nimble. Let us talk about what made the Tiger special from an engineering standpoint. This was not just a big gun on thick armour. This was German over-engineering at its finest, or worst, depending on your perspective. The Tiger had a revolutionary steering system. Instead of the traditional clutch and brake levers that most tanks used, the Tiger featured a steering wheel. Yes, you read that right. A steering wheel in a 54-ton tank. It used a double differential system based on British technology first seen in the Churchill tank. The system offered 16 different turning radii across 8 gears. In first gear, at just a few kilometres per hour, you could make incredibly tight turns. In neutral, the tracks could rotate in opposite directions, letting the Tiger spin in place. It was decades ahead of its time. The turret traverse system was equally sophisticated. A hydraulic motor powered by the main engine could rotate the massive 11-ton turret. In low gear, it moved at 6 degrees per second. With the high-speed setting at maximum engine RPM, it could whip around at over 36 degrees per second. The gunner controlled speed with foot pedals, allowing incredibly precise aiming. A light touch gave you 0.1 degrees per second. That is 360 degrees in 60 minutes. Perfect for careful targeting. Compare this to most Allied tanks, where you either had full speed traverse or nothing. The Tiger gunner could make micro adjustments that meant the difference between a hit and a miss at extreme range. And when you were trying to thread an 88mm shell through a target 2,000 meters away, precision matters. But here is where German engineering became German overthinking. The Tiger had interleaved road wheels. Instead of simple wheels in a row, the wheels overlapped in a complex pattern. This gave an amazingly smooth ride and excellent weight distribution. But it also meant that if one wheel was damaged, you had to remove multiple wheels to replace it. And in the Russian winter, mud would pack between the wheels, freeze overnight, and lock the entire tank in place. Crews had to use blowtorches to free the wheels in the morning. Brilliant engineering, terrible practicality. The engine was another contradiction. The early Tigers used the Maybach HL210, producing 650 horsepower. It was underpowered for the 54-ton beast. After the 251st Tiger, they switched to the Maybach HL230, boosting power to 700 horsepower. This was a re-engineered aircraft engine, incredibly sophisticated but also incredibly finicky. Crews were told not to exceed 2,600 RPM, even though the engine could handle 3,000. Why? Because the transmission could not take the stress. Speaking of the transmission, this was the Tiger's Achilles heel. The gearbox was a technological marvel, a Maybach Olvar hydraulically controlled semi-automatic pre-selector unit. Fancy words for incredibly complicated. It gave the Tiger 8 forward gears and smooth shifting, but the 54-ton weight destroyed transmissions if maintenance was not performed religiously. More Tigers were abandoned due to transmission failure than enemy action. And here is the kicker. To access the engine or transmission for repairs, you had to lift the entire turret off the tank. The 11-ton turret in a war zone, with limited heavy equipment. This meant simple repairs became nightmares. A job that should take hours took days. German engineering made an incredible machine that was almost impossible to keep running. No Tiger story is complete without mentioning Michael Wittmann, the most famous tank ace of World War II. This guy turned the Tiger into a legend. His combat record reads like fiction. By the time he died in August 1944, he was credited with destroying 138 enemy tanks and 132 anti-tank guns and artillery pieces. Those numbers are almost impossible to believe. Wittmann started his career in reconnaissance vehicles and Sturmgeschütz assault guns. He proved to be an exceptional soldier, cool under pressure with uncanny tactical awareness. When he transitioned to commanding a Tiger in early 1943, he became unstoppable. His first major action during Operation Citadel at Kursk saw him destroy 13 Soviet T-34 tanks and 2 anti-tank guns on the first day alone. By October 1943, he had destroyed 20 T-34s and 23 Soviet guns in a single day. The man was a natural. But Wittmann's most famous action came on June 13, 1944, near the French town of Villers-Bocage in Normandy. British forces were advancing, confident in their numerical superiority. Then Wittmann appeared. In approximately 5 minutes, one Tiger destroyed 25 British armoured vehicles. Let me repeat that. 5 minutes, 25 vehicles, gone. He ambushed a column from the British 7th Armoured Division, the famous Desert Rats. Cromwell tanks, half-tracks, and Bren carriers were turned into burning wrecks before the British could even organise a response. Shells from British guns bounced off the Tiger's armour. Their 6-pounder anti-tank guns might as well have been throwing rocks. Wittmann and his crew including his talented gunner Balthazar Wohl, moved methodically through the column. Point, fire, kill, move, repeat. The rest of Wittmann's company eventually joined, and together they destroyed 25 tanks, 14 half-tracks, and 14 Bren carriers. Operation Perch, the British advance, was stopped cold. It was the first defeat suffered by the legendary Desert Rats. One tank had changed the entire battle. Wittmann became a national hero in Germany. Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels made sure everyone knew his name. Hitler himself sent Wittmann a telegram praising his heroism. He was awarded the Knight's Cross with oak leaves, a decoration usually reserved for generals. For a brief moment, Wittmann personified everything the Tiger represented: invincibility, superiority, unstoppable German engineering. But legends do not last forever. On August 8, 1944, Wittmann was ordered into action near the French village of Sinto. His own Tiger was being repaired, so he took another commander's tank, number 007. He led his company forward into a massive Allied counterattack. Somewhere in the chaos and dust, Wittmann's Tiger was hit and destroyed. The turret was blown clean off. Wittmann and his entire crew were killed instantly. Multiple Allied units claimed credit for killing the famous ace. The Poles, Canadians, British, even the Royal Air Force said they did it. The most likely explanation is that he was ambushed by British Sherman Fireflies, upgraded Shermans mounting the powerful 17-pounder gun. These were specifically designed to kill Tigers. Wittmann had finally met his match. His body was not found until 1983 during road construction. The legend died as he lived in a Tiger in combat. For all its strengths, the Tiger had weaknesses that ultimately doomed it. Let us start with the obvious one. Germany only built 347 Tigers between August 1942 and August 1944. Compare that to 50,000 Shermans or 70,000 T-34s. The Tiger was statistically insignificant. No matter how good it was, it could not be everywhere at once. Production ramped up slowly. It started at 25 per month and finally peaked at 104 per month in April 1944. But by then, the war was already lost. Germany needed thousands of tanks. They got hundreds. And each Tiger tied up resources that could have built multiple cheaper, more reliable tanks. A single Tiger used enough steel for 21 105mm howitzers. The math simply did not work. Then there was the mechanical reliability nightmare. The Tiger required constant, meticulous maintenance. Miss a scheduled service and the transmission would fail. The engine would overheat, the gearbox would strip. Tiger battalions rarely entered combat at full strength because so many tanks were broken down. German after-action reports showed that mechanical failures claimed more Tigers than enemy fire. The overlapping road wheels were a constant problem. They looked cool and provided a smooth ride, but they were maintenance intensive. Changing an inner wheel meant removing multiple outer wheels. In combat conditions with limited tools, this was nearly impossible. And in winter, forget it. The wheels would pack with mud and freeze solid overnight. Crews joked that blowtorches were standard Tiger equipment. Fuel consumption was another killer. The Tiger could only travel 120 kilometres on roads or 85 kilometres cross-country before running dry. As Germany's fuel situation became desperate, Tigers often sat immobile, waiting for fuel that never came. Infantry learned not to rely on Tiger support because the tanks would inevitably be called away to refuel. Some Tigers were abandoned simply because there was no fuel to drive them. The Tiger's size and weight created problems everywhere it went. At 54 tons, it was too heavy for most bridges, which had 35-ton weight limits. The Tiger had to ford rivers, which required extensive preparation. The crew had to install a snorkel tube, seal the turret ring with an inflatable ring, and lock the turret facing forward. Setup took at least 30 minutes. The first 495 Tigers could ford up to 5 meters deep. But this system was so complicated and expensive that it was removed from later models, which could only ford 2 meters. Even driving through towns was dangerous. If a building had a cellar underneath, the Tiger's weight could cause the street to collapse, dropping the tank into the basement. Urban combat required constant vigilance and careful route planning. The Tiger could smash through walls, but what lurked behind them? By 1944, Allied technology had caught up. The British fielded the Sherman Firefly with its 17-pounder gun. The Soviets developed the 85mm gun, and even larger calibers specifically to penetrate Tiger armor. The Americans introduced 8 Fiap armor-piercing ammunition. German documents from 1944 admitted that the Tiger could no longer prance around oblivious to tank tactics. The invincibility was gone. The final nail in the coffin was Allied air superiority. Tigers made juicy targets for fighter bombers and ground attack aircraft. The Allies had learned that while the Tiger was nearly impossible to kill from the front, a rocket or bomb from above would do the job nicely. More Tigers were claimed destroyed by aircraft than actually were, but the threat was real enough to keep Tigers hiding under trees during daylight. Today, only 6 Tiger I tanks survive. They are scattered across museums in England, France, Russia, and formerly in the United States. But only one is in running condition. Tiger 131, displayed at the Tank Museum in Bovington, England. This tank has its own fascinating story. Tiger 131 was captured on April 24, 1943, in Tunisia during fighting at a place called Point 174. For decades, the accepted story was wrong. Everyone believed the Tiger was disabled at a different location by a different unit. New research in 2012 revealed the truth. The tank was actually disabled when a shell struck the turret ring, jamming the traverse mechanism. Unable to turn their gun, the crew bailed out and ran. The capture was significant. This was the first intact Tiger the Allies had ever taken. Prime Minister Winston Churchill and King George VI both flew to North Africa to be photographed with it. The tank was shipped back to England for extensive testing. British engineers pulled it apart, measured everything, and documented its strengths and weaknesses. The intelligence gathered helped design countermeasures. Tiger 131 sat in storage for decades before the Tank Museum acquired it in the 1960s. It became their star exhibit, but was not running. In the early 2000s, the museum undertook a massive restoration effort with the help of a Heritage Lottery Fund grant. The engine was rebuilt. The transmission was overhauled. Every system was carefully restored to working condition. Since its restoration, Tiger 131 appears at special events, roaring around the museum's arena. The sound of that Maybach engine echoing across the grounds sends chills down your spine. This is the only place in the world you can see a Tiger Y moving under its own power. It is a living piece of history, a reminder of when this machine terrorized battlefields across Europe and North Africa. The other 5 surviving Tigers are static displays, slowly deteriorating from age and weather. One sits outdoors in France with its hatches welded shut, exposed to the elements. Another in Russia was used for target practice and is in terrible condition. These irreplaceable artifacts deserve better preservation, but resources are limited. At least Tiger 131 will continue running, a testament to the engineering brilliance and terrible flaws of Germany's most feared tank. So, was the Tiger I worth it? From a pure engineering standpoint, absolutely. The Tiger represented a quantum leap in tank design. The 80mm gun set the standard for tank armament for years after the war. The thick, high-quality armour showed what was possible with proper metallurgy. The sophisticated steering and traverse systems influenced post-war tank development worldwide. From a military effectiveness standpoint, the numbers tell the story. Tigers on the Eastern Front destroyed over 8,000 Soviet tanks. The kill ratio heavily favoured the Tigers. In skilled hands, a single Tiger could dominate an entire battlefield. Allied troops genuinely feared encountering them. That psychological impact cannot be measured in statistics alone. But from a strategic standpoint, the Tiger was a disaster. Germany invested enormous resources into a tank they could barely produce and could not adequately supply. Every Tiger took resources that could have built multiple, more practical tanks. The complexity meant constant breakdowns. The weight meant limited mobility. The fuel consumption meant limited range. And there was simply never enough of them to make a strategic difference. The Tiger. I proved that quality does not always beat quantity. The Allies won by overwhelming German forces, with thousands upon thousands of adequate tanks, rather than hundreds of superior ones. A broken-down Tiger was worth less than a functioning Sherman, even if the Sherman was inferior in every measurable way. The Tiger's true legacy is not military, it is cultural. The Tiger. I became the most iconic tank of World War II. More than 75 years after the last one rolled off the production line, people instantly recognise its silhouette. Movies, video games, documentaries, and books have immortalised the Tiger far beyond its actual military impact. It has become a symbol of both German engineering excellence and the futility of over-engineered weapons in total war. The Tiger Y was a magnificent machine deployed by a doomed regime. It terrified its enemies, inspired its crews, and ultimately could not change the outcome of the war. Today, it stands as a reminder that in war, perfection is the enemy of good enough. Sometimes the best weapon is not the strongest or most advanced. Sometimes it is simply the one that shows up in the numbers you need, when you need it, and actually works when you pull the trigger. The Tiger. I was Germany's most feared tank. But fear alone cannot win wars. For that, you need fuel, spare parts, factory capacity, and most importantly, more tanks than your enemy can destroy. Germany had the fear. The Allies had everything else. And in the end, that made all the difference. Image generations. Section 1, image black and white comic book illustration in GTA art style, moderate detail. Henschel factory workers frantically assembling a Tiger YY tank prototype on Hitler's birthday. Engineers welding, mechanics bolting armour plates, crane lifting the massive turret onto the hull. April 20th, 1942 calendar visible on factory wall. Nazi officials in background checking watches anxiously. Steam and sparks fill the industrial workshop atmosphere. Close-up focus on hands tightening bolts on the thick frontal armour. Sense of urgency and deadline pressure throughout the scene. Factory lighting casting dramatic shadows across the massive tank frame. Section 2, image black and white, comic book illustration in G art style, moderate detail. 4. Tiger I tanks, completely stuck and tilted in muddy swamp terrain near Leningrad Forest. Tanks at awkward angles, tracks half submerged in soft ground. German crews standing outside their disabled vehicles, looking frustrated and embarrassed. Soviet troops visible in distant tree line observing the scene. Mud splattered across the pristine white winter camouflage. Recovery vehicles attempting to pull one Tiger with heavy chains. Birch trees and marshy landscape surrounding the disaster. Smoke rising from one Tiger's engine compartment. First combat failure captured in humiliating detail. Section 3 image, black and white, comic book illustration in GTA art style. Moderate detail. Cutaway technical view showing Tiger Y interleaved road wheels packed with frozen mud and ice. Mechanic kneeling with blowtorch trying to thaw the wheels in Russian winter setting. Complex overlapping wheel pattern clearly visible. Snow-covered ground and frost on tank armour. Steam rising from blowtorch heat. Tools scattered around. Another crew member holding instruction manual looking concerned. Exposed wheel mechanisms showing the engineering complexity. Eastern Front winter landscape in background. Detailed view of the sophisticated but impractical suspension system. Section 4. Image black and white comic book illustration in GTA art style. Moderate detail. Michael Whitman, standing in Tiger Firm's commander's hatch wearing his Knight's Cross medal. Confident expression, scanning the horizon through binoculars. Multiple destroyed British tanks burning in the background at Villers Bocage. Smoke rising from Cromwell tank wrecks. Whitman's Tiger Y, number 205 in mid-action stance. His gunner, Balthazar Wohl, visible in another hatch loading ammunition. Normandy, hedgerow, countryside visible. Dramatic action scene showing the legendary tank ace in his moment of triumph. Shell casings scattered on the turret top. Section 5 image black and white, comic book illustration in GTA art style, moderate detail. Side view of Tiger Y, with turret being hoisted off by a massive crane in a field repair scenario. Exposed engine and transmission visible inside the hull. German mechanics working frantically with tools. Tank track separated on one side, showing repair difficulty. Another Tiger providing support in background. Spare parts and toolboxes scattered around. Exhausted crew members covered in grease sitting nearby. War-torn landscape visible. Scene emphasizing the maintenance nightmare and mechanical complexity. Sense of time pressure and battlefield repair challenges. Section 6 image black and white comic book illustration in GTA art style. Moderate detail. Tiger 131 in pristine restored condition at the Bovington Tank Museum. Tank positioned in the museum arena with its engine running, exhaust visible. Crowd of modern visitors in background taking photos. Museum building architecture visible. Shell damage visible on the turret, where it was disabled. The number, 131, clearly painted on turret side. Restoration quality showing every detail. Living history moment captured as the only running Tiger performs. Sense of preservation and historical significance. Dramatic low-angle shot emphasizing the tank's imposing presence. Section 7 image black and white comic book illustration in GTA art style, moderate detail. Split scene comparison showing one side with a single magnificent Tiger Weiss, facing down multiple Sherman tanks, 88mm gun smoking. Other side showing a massive assembly line factory producing dozens of Sherman tanks, simultaneously like an endless conveyor belt. Tigers few but powerful versus Shermans numerous but adequate. American and Soviet flags visible on factory side. German insignia on Tiger side. Symbolic representation of quality versus quantity doctrine. Scale difference emphasized. Final message about strategic versus tactical superiority.